Hi, I'm Ray Kurzweil. It's great to be with you. I'm a inventor, author. Some people accuse me of being a futurist. I recently joined Google, where I have the title Director of Engineering. And we have a great panel to talk about this movie, After Earth, which is coming out this summer. I think the trailer, which I suggest you look at, is very exciting. Looks like great entertainment, but it raises some very profound issues, which we hope to talk about today. And I'd like to just briefly introduce our illustrious panel. Will, you and I were last together on December 31st, 1999, at the Millennium Eve celebration at the White House.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
That was a fun time. And Will needs no introduction. As I've described this event to people, people say, "Oh, wow, he's the best loved actor and entertainer in the world." So I'll leave it at that. And Jaden, you look a lot like your father. I guess this is your second, it's your second movie starring with your father as a father and son duo. Pursuit of Happiness was a great success, and you also did a great job in Karate Kid. So I think we'll be seeing and hearing a lot more of you, Jaden, in the years ahead. We have several other illustrious thinkers, Elon Musk, who I've worked with on projects like Singularity University, has actually two relevant connections to this discussion. You're founder of SpaceX, which is leading the effort to privatize space, working with NASA, and you've had some very successful launches just recently, which were historic. And Tesla is also leading the way in terms of preserving our environment with a zero-emission car that's the most successful all-electric vehicle. And if you go in a Tesla car, I feel like you're going into space. It's a very high-performing car. Alexandra Cousteau is the third generation of the legendary Cousteau family, granddaughter of Jacques-Yves Cousteau, daughter of Philippe Cousteau, and you've been continuing your family's efforts to explore, understand, and preserve the oceans, which is really most of the Earth. We're called the Blue Planet for a good reason, and I'll be interested to hear your perspective on how we're doing with that. And we have middle school from Culver City, California. And we're very interested in getting your perspective on how we're doing with the Earth and whether you're anxious to leave the Earth. I guess it might depend on what day we talk to you. But we're looking forward to getting your ideas. So, Will, let me start with you. Obviously, one goal of the movie is to entertain people. Judging by the trailer, it looks like it does a great job of that. But it also touches on other themes because people have left the Earth because of an environmental disaster. There is a lot of concern today that we might be headed for that kind of scenario. So, what did the movie mean to you? What are some of the themes you think it raises?
Well, thank you. For first of all, I want to say thank you to you. You have been behind the scenes in my career for many years. The Age of Spiritual Machines is beside my bed during iRobot and I Am Legend. So
No,
I want to thank you for all your hard work. You make me look good.
That's what I'm trying to do.
No, this is with this film. It was such a perfect collision of art, entertainment, education, an opposing of fantastic questions. You know, as an artist, this film does exactly what I've always dreamed to be able to do, to be able to entertain and to also pose very interesting questions. And to do it with my son, it was wonderful for the two of us to become environmentally educated together. We did a lot of the shooting in Costa Rica, which is one of the most beautiful places on Earth. And then one of the questions that was posed during the shooting was about what would the actual damage that was being done by human occupation of the planet. We started huge questions of water came up, and the idea that today it's oil that we're willing to go to war over, and at some point in the future it's going to be water. So there were huge questions that were posed, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, how do you think we're doing in terms of the environment? I mean, there is a lot of concern that that's going to be the only destiny left to humanity, is to actually leave this planet, which is the scenario that the movie portrays. Mm-hmm. Are you pessimistic, optimistic? Do you think it's in our hands? We can go either way, or what is your view on
that? I really believe that it is going to be a very serious concern that we're going to need to focus on. Again, being in Costa Rica and sitting and speaking to some of the elders of Costa Rica who had seen the changes in the weather patterns over even just the last 60 or 70 years. I truly believe the exploration of space is an absolute necessity. I was truly concerned in the past few years of the U.S. situation with NASA, and I think that it's something we're going to need to take very seriously, and we look at it in our film from an entertainment standpoint, but I think it's something that the world needs to take very, very seriously.
So Jaden, you probably resist being a spokesperson for your generation. I don't like it when people expect me to be a spokesperson for my generation, but and we do have some eighth graders with us as well. We'll hear from them. But from your perspective, how does your generation feel about how we're doing with the environment? Are they pessimistic? Do they think that we can overcome these challenges? I mean, this is a theme that the movie portrays.
I mean, our world is going to get to a tipping point, and I don't think that we've reached that tipping point yet, and I feel like if we wanted to stop that, then my generation would have to almost become obsessed with it and say, you know what, we're stopping everything that we're doing wrong right now. No more plastic, only reusable sources, and only solar power. But, it's really something that we're going to have to work on. But I really feel like my generation can get used to, paper bottles and just renewable things easier than somebody that has been living in this world for so long and is used to the standard things. And, I think my generation will take it very seriously and know that tap water doesn't kill you. You can drink tap water, You can use a bottle over and over again, you know what I'm saying? Like, even in our house, we have glass bottles that we just use over and over and over again. And I really think that my generation can really, really be serious about this environmental thing, because if not, we're the ones that are going to be suffering from the consequences. Because no, it's okay.
You brought up a great point about tipping point, because that's actually the concern, that things are getting gradually worse, but we might get to a point where suddenly things get drastically worse quickly. Like if you bend a stick, it can bend and then suddenly it snaps. That's a worry. We'll talk more about that. I'll share my views on how we're doing and what I think a strategy could be for addressing this problem in a moment. But Elon, as I mentioned, you have two connections to this issue. Let's start with space. Do you see space as something, a venture for us to learn more about the Earth and as a contribution to science? After all, in the original space flights, the computer chip was perfected, so that was one fallout of the space program. Or do you see this as a kind of vanguard for where eventually some human beings could actually leave the Earth, and that's going to be a survival strategy for humanity?
Well, I think it's I think it's all of those things. I think we want to be a spacefaring civilization. I mean, history is going to fundamentally bifurcate in two directions. Either we're a spacefaring civilization, or we're going to be bound to Earth until some eventual extinction event. I mean, I'm fairly optimistic about the near-term situation in Earth, without suggesting that we be complacent. But I think a future where we are a spacefaring civilization out there exploring the stars on multiple planets is a very exciting one, an inspiring one, and certainly one which ensures that the survival of humanity the probability is much greater. So that's why I'm in favor of that.
I mean, when we do explore space and go to far distant stars, systems, and so on, do we need to send biological humans, big, soft, squishy creatures, or can we just send small computers?
Well, robots? I think we want to send humans. I don't know. I mean, I think we will send robots, but I think we want to send people too. And there's some potential for, even though it does sound science fiction-y, for warp drive to work and to be able to travel fast. Well, technically, to warp space such that you're traveling at the speed of light, but you've warped space so that space is actually traveling. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. Or we could actually go through other dimensions, and places that seem to be far away could actually be closer through another dimension.
Yeah, I'm less optimistic about that one. Yeah.
But let me move to you, Alexandra. You're the third generation of a pioneering family seeking to preserve and understand and explore the oceans, which is actually most of the Earth. So how do you think we're doing? Are you optimistic? Are you upset with what's happening to the oceans?
Well, I would have to say that I'm a little bit of both, right? To be perfectly honest, I am upset about what's happening here on Earth. We're on the knife's edge of either protecting this place that we live or losing an enormous amount of it. But I have to say, I completely agree with Jaden in that this generation has an extraordinary opportunity to use technology that we've never had before, knowledge that we've never had before, and opportunities that we've never had before to actually take control of our use of resources at home, in our communities, to steward and protect our forests and our waters and all these places that provide us with the quality of our life and the quality of our health. And I think if this generation can't do it, then I will become much more pessimistic. But I actually believe that between the enthusiasm and passion of our youth and the technology and amazing innovation that we've had just in the past 5 years, we can go a long way to saving this world.
Let me just share some of my perspective. I agree with a lot of the comments. Jaden had some great practical suggestions on how we can preserve our environment today. I agree with your comments, Ilan and Alexandra. I am also take optimism from recent developments. Larry Page, my new boss, and I were asked by the National Academy of Engineering a few years ago to study all the emerging energy technologies and come up with a plan for the United States. And we selected solar as being the most promising emerging technology because we're applying advanced technologies, nanotechnology, to bring down the cost of solar. So the cost of solar panels is coming down very quickly. As a result, the total amount of solar energy in the world is on a rise. It's on an exponential rise. It's doubling every 2 years. And it's been doing that for 30 years. So right now it's a little over 1%. So people say, oh, 1%, it's a fringe player, nice thing to do, but 1% is not really going to solve the problem, ignoring the fact that 1% is only 7 doublings from 100%. And people dismissed the Genome Project when it was 1%, ignoring the fact that it was growing exponentially. Within 15 years, we could meet all of our energy needs with solar. Solar is actually cost comparative with other forms of energy like fossil fuels without any subsidies in different regions of the world. And that's as the costs come down some more, it'll actually be less expensive. And so I presented this actually to the Prime Minister of Israel recently, and he said, "But Ray, do we have enough sunlight to do this with?" And I said, "Yes, we have 10,000 times more than we need. And after we double 7 more times, and are meeting all of our energy needs through solar, we'll be using 1 part in 10,000 of the sunlight. And it's free. Ultimately, this can be very inexpensive. It has no environmental impact. There are similar issues actually in cleaning up water, similar solutions that are emerging, similar solutions emerging for food production, housing. It's a complex subject, but if we restrict ourselves to 19th century technologies like fossil fuels, then I would be pessimistic also. If we embrace these new strategies and new technologies, which are environmentally friendly, they're decentralized, they're not subject to disasters like oil spills, then I would be very optimistic. We have actually the means and the knowledge to meet our biological and material needs in an environmentally friendly way. We just have to make the decision to do that. Let me move to Culver City. Do you kids have a question or a comment? I'd like to hear what your generation thinks.
Well, we definitely agree with what Jaden said earlier. We know that we have to continue what is helping our earth, and we definitely have to keep using the reusable things. And we really have to do it and start acting now, because we have to make sure that our future generations aren't in trouble like we are right now.
Well, I think that's good advice. Do you have a question for the other panelists?
Yeah. After you were done shooting the film, how has your view of planet Earth changed? For Jaden?
Well, I feel like I really saw some true beauty in the world after shooting in Costa Rica, and in Eureka, and how different it is. And it really, after that experience, it really showed me how important it is to save our world, and how I want planet Earth to be around for a very, very long time. And I want to treat it well, because it is the giving tree. It gives us food, water, air, living, everything. And it's just time for us to give back to it and not throw plastic bottles in the ocean and make an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean of just plastic and just disgustingness and killing fish and poisoning lakes. And it's time to give back to it and really just appreciate how much the world gives to us. Everything here was made by humans, but we took it from the world to make everything that we have, and we praise ourselves like, oh, look what we did. But really it was the world that gave it to us. So that's what showed me how important it is for us to really, really take care of our world.
How about you, Will? How did your perspective change from shooting this movie?
Yeah, it was as Jaden said, we were in some of the most beautiful places on earth. The Redwood Forest. We shot Moab, Utah, and Costa Rica. So, for me, I grew up in a different kind of jungle. I grew up in a concrete jungle, so I grew up in inner city Philadelphia. So it was, even something like, having my shoes off is something that I started to experience more beyond my 30s. I grew up with the idea that, concrete was 80% of the environment. So this opportunity was a huge eye opener for me, and even I wouldn't say that there was a disrespect, but there was a lack of understanding. I didn't realize how delicate a tree or an environment or an ecosystem, even something that in the film industry we've been talking about is the footprint of your movie. When you take a movie into a space, you're bringing food, and you're bringing trailers, and you're bringing generators and all of that. And just really in the last 5 or 6 years has that even come my radar as something that's like, oh, wow, yes, you are bringing an organism into a delicate environment. A movie company is an organism. So I've become very aware of the movements of the things that I create and the companies that I'm involved with create in the earth. And I want to thank Jaden, because it's absolutely not something that I grew up with or was aware of.
So let me ask you a different question. In the movie, you come back to Earth 1,000 years after this environmental disaster, and you find that it's changed quite a bit, and there's been a lot of evolution. Interestingly, there was recently a study came out that showed there actually has been a lot of biological genetic evolution of humans in the last 1,000 years. People thought that we had not changed very much in the last 1,000 years, and actually the evidence shows that there has been a surprising amount of evolution, biological evolution, in the last 1,000 years. My view, though, is that we're going to change much more dramatically through a different kind of evolution, technological evolution, rather than biological evolution in the future. In my view, 50 years from now, let alone 1,000, we're going to be very different, because we're going to merge with machines, already extending our minds with, these little devices we carry around. They'll eventually go inside our bodies and brains, connect our brains to the cloud, make us smarter, and we will, evolve very dramatically in a matter of decades rather than centuries. But what's your view of that in terms of what you think the next 50, 100,000 years would bring, even if we don't leave the Earth?
Well, what was really interesting in Jaden and I were discussing this. I started in the music industry, and my first album was released, and there weren't even CDs, So it wasn't until my third album was released that it was on a CD. So
I still have my vinyl records.
I never, so the explosion and the almost devouring of the entertainment, the way that people take their entertainment by technology was extremely powerful and voracious, the way it was just consumed by technology in a very, very good way. So I'm seeing, and in the Fantastic Voyage was discuss the idea of how the next phase of that is going to be medicine, and the way that technology is moving into the realm of medicine in that with that same kind of force. So I'm extremely excited about those possibilities. My father just had a successful surgery where he had a pacemaker implanted, but his pacemaker is a Bluetooth device. So
your father's a cyborg now.
Yes. Yes. So his pacemaker is now, it syncs into the telephone system, and his doctor can monitor it from his laptop. And I just thought that was the most amazing, powerful, and maybe a little frightening that somebody could just pop up on their laptop.
Even this hangout is something that we couldn't have done just a couple of years ago. When these things happen, we just take them for granted. Let me wrap up by just asking a question of the 8th graders, if I can get your attention. So what's your view about how we can manage our environmental problems? Do we have to leave the Earth? Is that kind of what you have in the back of your mind, that if we don't really succeed in cleaning up our planet, we can always leave? Or are you optimistic that we can actually create the kind of world we want here on Earth?
I definitely I have faith in our generation. I do think that we can help this Earth, and I really I'm for sure that we cannot go to a different planet just in case, like, we waste this planet and go to a different planet. Like, we can't do that. We have to. I think I'm very optimistic that we can save this planet and continue to do the right things.
Yeah. Well, people of your generation are going to make a huge difference. There was one 14-year-old kid who actually came up with an early blood test for pancreatic cancer, which is now going to be adopted. So young people have the tools and the knowledge to actually change the world, and I have confidence that you will all do that. So let me thank all the participants, Will Smith and Jaden Smith.
Ray, hold on. Jaden had something he wanted to say to Elon Musk.
Okay.
He just, and I told him that he had to behave, but you can just tell him how you feel about
Okay,
him.
I was just gonna tell Mr. Musk that the invention of the Tesla is amazing, and in January of next year I will be getting a Tesla because I feel like it's the most environmentally safe thing to get, and it's simply fly. I didn't want to say that I want to sound intelligent. I want to sound intelligent, but it's fly.
It's fly.
Thank you very much. You're in one.
Thank you.
Elon Musk, students of Culver City Middle School, Alexandra Cousteau, thank you very much for your participation. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys so much.
Awkward.
Metformin.
Oh.